Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. My name is Troy, and in this series you're gonna see today, I show that anyone can create a growing source of completely passive income. If this is the first time you're even hearing of this series and you wanna know what it's all about, I'm gonna link episode 1 above my head so you can go back and watch that and get an understanding of what I'm trying to accomplish with this series. That first episode is gonna explain all things, such as why I picked the stocks I picked, how much and how often I'm gonna be investing, and the overall goals of this portfolio. Once you're caught up there, feel free to watch the other episodes in order so you can see the natural progression of this portfolio, or you can just come back to this episode to see where we're currently at. With that being said, if you're already caught up and you're here for your bi-weekly update, let's get to it. In today's video, you're going to see where the portfolio was 2 weeks ago and where it is now after 64 weeks invested, the buys that were just completed on April 4th, 2025, and their impact on the cost basis, my all-time best and worst performing positions since this portfolio began, and to close out the episode, I'll show you all of the passive income received since the last episode and what is headed our way in the future. Now, for anybody that hasn't seen or doesn't remember where we left off 2 weeks ago, let's get a quick reminder here. So at the conclusion of last episode, we had a goal of $160 per holding. The account balance was sitting at $1,894.33, and this portfolio was in the red, down $44.36 or 2.32%. Now, let's go ahead and check out the buys just completed in this portfolio with this right here. Here you can see both the $60 auto deposit into the account, as well as the $5 invested into each position for this episode. This week, unlike last episode, I was able to use my handy little chart to even out the positions a little bit, but there was an unintended consequence of that I'll touch on a little bit later in this video. So with these new buys I just did in this account and the recent tumble of the market, let's go ahead and take a peek at the cost basis of these positions and see which ones had the biggest movement in either direction with this right here. With each passing investment into these stocks, the cost basis is likely to fluctuate based on where the stock is currently sitting in price. As a long-term investor, this doesn't matter too much to me on an episode-by-episode basis, but switching my focus to something like this takes away the fear of the market going down like it is recently and gives me a new goal to focus on. With that being said, I'm not going to take the time to read all of these, but I will outline the biggest changes since last episode. The biggest decrease, the green fields, since last episode goes to DDS, which went from $415.49 per share to $411.95 per share. While believe it or not, we did have some increases to report on, with the biggest increase, the red fields, since last episode, going to KNSL, which went from $445.88 per share to $446.69 per share. As many of you probably know, the lower each stock goes and the more I buy, it'll continue to lower the cost basis, which means whenever these stocks do decide to come back up, I'll be able to reach my cost basis sooner and make money even faster. With that being said, let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit and see where this portfolio is currently sitting with this right here. So right here is the up-to-date information on the portfolio to reflect our most recent buys completed on Friday, April 4th, 2025, after 64 weeks invested. With this episode, we want each of the 12 positions to be as close to that $165 mark as possible, and with that being said, we have a new account balance of $1,789.98. Now let me add another screenshot right here with a little bit more information, which will feed into what we'll be talking about next. So this is pretty much the same screenshot we were just looking at, but it has the gain and loss information here at the end. I'm not going to read all this information to you guys, so if there's anything you did want to dive into more, feel free to pause the video here if you need more time to do that. The things I did want to outline here is the best performing position in this portfolio, which is now ABBV or ABV, which is up $6.32 or 3.83%. The worst performing position, which is now DDS or Dillard's, that's down $37.79 or 22.99%, and that overall this portfolio has fallen like a rock and is down $209.71 or 10.62%, as the combination of this portfolio being relatively new and the large recent drop has really hit this portfolio hard. Next, let's go ahead and add this portfolio performance to the season chart before checking out the performance trends to see if, despite this massive downtrend, we are still headed in the right direction long term. So on this chart, you'll basically get to see where the portfolio ended at the end of the first year invested, aka season 1, and where it currently sits, aka season 2. As I said in last episode, looking at this chart over the very short term won't be as useful as I see it being when this portfolio is many years old, but it'll be nice to have and build on between now and then. Once again, this suggestion was made by one of my subs on another video in the series, so if you also have any ideas to make this series better, just let me know down below in the comments. As I mentioned a little bit ago, I like to think of this chart chart you see now as the summary chart and this next chart as the trending chart. So let's go ahead and check that one out right here to see if we're trending in the right direction. As I've talked about before, trend lines can be very useful to help you not make rash decisions, but when the market is getting smacked around like it is now, the trend line can only hang on for so long. For the past 5 episodes or 10 weeks, this portfolio and the overall market for that matter has been in a free fall that seems to only be picking up speed at this point. Obviously, it would be my goal to buy all my stocks at $1 and then have them go to $1 million the next day, but that's not how it works. So as I said before, we will use this time to keep adding to the positions, lowering the cost basis, and wishing this dip lasted longer years from now. Actually, touching a little bit more on that, every single investor that I know had a little bit of fear when their portfolio was dropping like a rock during COVID or even 2022, and then just last year they were wishing they could scoop up more shares at those prices. While we might not be there yet or might never get quite that low, it's important to keep that in mind now and see this as an opportunity and not a bad thing. Now to close out the episode, let's finally get some good news first by seeing who paid me since last episode with this right here. So this episode features payments that'll close out March and get April started, so let's take a look at those. On March 31st, I received 58 cents from AVGO, which looking here at this chart, you can see is continuing its trend in the right direction. This time last year, AVGO paid me 11 cents. The last payment was for 50 cents, and now we sit here at 58 cents. In total, AVGO has now paid me $1.76, which is 8.94% of the total money received in this portfolio. Then, the same day I received my interest payment from SPAXX in the amount of 13 cents because of the little bit of cash sitting in the account that isn't invested. This one is in a growth position, so I won't go over each payment here, but in total, SPAXX has now paid me out $1.17 or 5.94% of the total money received in this account. And now, kicking off April, PHM sent me 29 cents, and looking here, we're now up to 5 payments from this one. This time last year, PHM paid me 5 cents, the last payment was for 23 cents, and now we're up to that 29 cents. In total, PHM has now paid me 84 cents, which is 4.27% of the total money received in this account. With that being said, let's go ahead and add these payments onto my tracker and see how we finished March and where we currently sit with this right here. So adding both of those March payments in, that gave us a March total of $1.35, which was 1,250% higher than last March. With March being over, we can also peek at the Q1 results, which finished at $12.16 or 6,655.6% higher than Q1 of last year. With that April dividend from PHM added in, we're only 35.6% away from last April's total, and I'll be showing you what is left for April here in 1 second. Before we go to that, take a peek down here at the bottom, and you can see that so far in 2025, this portfolio has generated $12.45, which is already 72% higher than the passive income made in all of 2024, which you love to see. Now, how I have this portfolio set up, I'll eventually be able to make a bonus investment into these stocks, and we can check out the progress towards that with this chart right here. Once again, this idea came from a simple comment down below, and we now have this beautiful chart to look at and talk about. This chart simply shows how long it would take at the current pace to add a bonus investment into this account. Last episode, I showed you it was projecting to take me until October 16th of 2026 to hit that $60 mark at the current pace, but also showed you that 56 days had been knocked off in just one episode. Well, if you remember me saying that there were unintended consequences earlier in the episode, this is where that shows up. By evening out some of my underweighted positions, I had to spend some of the cash that was sitting on the sidelines. Now, to be fair, that cash should have already been spent, but I digress. With that being said, I am sad to report that in this episode, the estimated bonus investment date actually went up 2 weeks to October 30th of 2026, but I do not expect that trend to continue and think we'll be back on track in next episode. Here is the updated chart showing where we started with the bonus investment date and where we are now with this most recent episode. Now, to close out the video, let's go ahead and see what passive income is coming down the pipeline for April with this right here. So here you can see that we have a pretty busy month coming up, and when that comes to making money, you love to hear that. Up at the top, you can see that first payment from PHM that we already spoke about, but looking past that, it looks like we have 4 more dividend payments coming this month. We can expect money from STLD on the 11th, Intuit on the 18th, Humana on the 25th, ALG on the 29th, and actually not pictured is that interest payment around 10 cents on the 30th to close out the month. Now, I'll be back with another episode before we close out April as part of the bi-weekly update, so be on the lookout for that as I provide you with an update on not only this passive income received, but also if the shipping ship has stopped sinking or if we're still going down in the market. But that's going to wrap it up for this bi-weekly update to the Anyone Can Invest portfolio. If you guys enjoyed this series, please let me know that by leaving a like on the video. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave those in the comment section down below. And if you want to see a dead body, I mean a really red portfolio, you can check out the wife and I's portfolio recap for March right here. But until next time, see ya.